Hey, everybody. We're on lesson 2.5. 2.5, graphing proportional relationships. So far we've talked about unit rates, we've talked about ratios, how they deal with fractions, then we talked about equivalent ratios, which is taking those fractions and seeing if they equal each other. Then we talked about our constant proportionality, which is turning it into an equation. And finally, now we're going to be talking about proportional relationships and how they have to deal with graphs. This is pages 18 through 20, and it says I can use a graph to determine whether two quantities are proportional. So you'll be able to just look at a graph and say, yeah, that's proportional, or no, not really, it's not. So let's go to page 18. And as you see, I swiftly scroll because I don't have pages in between, but you're going to have to flip a lot and get to page 18, so take the time you need. If you need to pause the video, go ahead and do so. So we are on lesson 2.5, example 1. So it says, each 1/4 cup servings of cereal is 3 grams of protein. And question A, it asks, how can you use the graph to determine whether the quantities are proportional and to find how many grams of protein are in 1 cup of cereal? Then you're going to say, how can you find the constant of proportionality from the coordinates of 1 point on the graph? So let's start by saying, well, let's just graph that 1 point. So they gave us fours. That was awesome. We don't have to figure out where they go. And they gave us, and that's where our cups of cereal are, down here. And our grams of protein is on our y-axis, so our cups of cereal is our x, and our grams of protein is our y. They've already told us, so we don't have to figure it out. So we're going to go ahead and graph that first point of 1/4 servings for 3 grams. So that would go right here. And that's that first point. So now, if this is a proportional relationship, we need to figure out what is our constant. So a great way to figure this out on the graph is to figure out how it moved. So if you look, you can see I went over 2 spaces to get to that 1/4. Well, to get to the next one, 1/2, you see that we also went over 2 spaces, another 2 spaces, and another 2 spaces. And it just went up by 1/4 increments. We have 1/4 plus another 1/4 gives us 1/2, plus another 1/4 gives us 3/4, plus another 1/4 gives us 1. Now, if you're confused why this is half, remember 1/4 plus 1/4 is 2/4, and 2/4 simplified is just 1/2. So we went over 2 spaces, up 3 spaces to get to the 3. So over 2, up 3. So that's what we're going to do over here. We're going to go over 2, more from here, over 2, and 3 from here. So over 2, up 3, and we're at the 6. Over 2, up 3, and we're at 9. Over 2, up, well, we ran out. We have 1, 2, 3. Well, if we were at 9, it would have been 10, 11, 12. So that's one way we could find it. There are other ways, and we're going to just talk about it right now. We can also figure out where to go by doing our equivalent ratios. So we know we have our y over our x, which is going to be a 3 over 1/4. Well, how do we know what our next one is? Well, we need to figure out what 1 is. So how do we get from here? We multiply by 4. So how do we get from here? We multiply by 4. So now we have 12 over 1. So our k is equal to 12. So we know if we multiply our x by 12, we'll get our k. Well, 1/2 times 12 gives us 6. 3/4 times 12 gives us 9, and 1 times 12 gives us 12. And so that's how we can figure out what 1 is. We can either make our proportions, or you can look at how it moves on the graphs, because it's going to move the same each time. And again, if we want to look at that, that is over 1 over 2, over 2 up 1, 3, over 2 up 3, over 2 up 3. And even when we go down here, down 3 over 2, it's always going to move the same. So how can you find the proportionality from the coordinates of 1 point on the graph? Just like we did above, you can always take your y and divide it by your x. So you find your constant. Or your y over x. So we need to make sure we're writing our proper answer. So we're going to have 12 grams of protein per 1 cup of milk. And that's your answer to that one. And over here, you can just find your constant. So let's try 2.5. Switch it up a little bit. All right, the graph shows a proportional relationship between the distance and the amount of time Mr. Brown drives. So A, what does these points represent in the situation? So we have 0, 0, 155, and 5 to 75. Now, if you notice on the last problem, our points seem to have made a straight line. Now, I'm going to go ahead and draw it out, and we look, and while my hand is a little wobbly, I don't have a ruler to do it. As you see, it makes a straight line. The other thing you notice is that it goes through the origin, 0, 0. So two things you should notice about a proportional graph, because this was a proportional relationship, is that it makes a straight line and it goes to the origin. And you see that down here as well. It's a straight line that goes to the origin. So what does each point represent in this situation? Well, 0, 0. Well, this is our time down here and our distance here. So it's 0 time and 0 distance. So they've gone 0 miles in 0 hours. And I just did that line, 0, that circle with a line through it, that just means 0. So, and that makes sense. If you've gone 0 miles, you've gone 0 hours, right, guys? That's not something that's profound. So now at 1 hour, you've traveled 55 miles. And this one's saying at 5 hours, you travel, I spelled travel wrong up here, 275 miles. So we need to figure out what is our constant of proportionality. Well, that is how many miles we travel. And remember, it's our y over our x, which makes it our miles over our hours. Well, that means we want to know for 1 mile, we are going to take that 55 over 1. And you can really take any of them to solve, but 55 over 1 is always going to be our easiest because I don't have to do any division, or I don't need my calculator to figure out what is 55 divided by 1. So my constant, my k, equals 55. So then what is our equation relating our distance y and our time x? Our y, or our distance, equals 55 times the number of miles you travel. So if you multiply the number of, or your time, however long you travel, by 55, you'll figure out how far you get. And that's all that means. And that's our equation right there. This is our answer over here. And you have your answers up there. If you have questions, let me know. You can send me a Canvas. You can ask Ms. Stockton if you're in my class there, or you can ask the sub. She does have answers as well. Otherwise, just send me an email or send me a message on Canvas. Have a great day.